but we can go up to over 55 pounds. We can fly at night. So that will mean different type drones, and we're working with several leading companies to be able to develop that technology. So lots of good opportunities for UPS and UPS customers.
Hey, David, it's Carl. Today the San Francisco Fed has a paper titled "Are Workers Losing to Robots?" And they point out the share of national income that's gone to workers has dropped from the low 60s to the 50s in about 20 years. It's not outsourcing, they argue. It's not offshoring. It's automation. Long term, what's the effect on employment here?
Well, when you look at drones specifically, I can tell you we think it will be an enabler of jobs, especially at the beginning, because when you can offer specialized services such as drone delivery, you also have a better chance of getting your customers the rest of their deliveries. So if we're growing our business, then we will create opportunities for our drivers at the same time. We have 125,000 drivers. If this is a thriving company that is focused on leading the way with technologies, we believe we can create opportunities for them, plus provide opportunities for our customers through the latest technologies.
David, tell us more about the economics of drone deliveries. It seems to me like this is a premium service, somebody who wants something really quickly and something that's, I guess, relatively lightweight, though you say it goes up to 55 pounds. Do you expect this to cost quite a bit more for the customer and significantly more to actually deliver?
You know, it's hard to say exactly just a general cost, because it is going to be customer specific for their needs. And I can tell you at first it will be more specialized services, but the advantage of this Part 135 is we're going to be able to consolidate and have scale and be able to dispatch from one central office. That means there's going to be efficiencies which we will be able to pass on to our customers. So the more scale we develop, the more economical it will be. And so we believe there's a viable business, that our customers are going to win, and it will be economically viable for us too.
David, I want to shift gears. We got another weak ISM manufacturing number today. Activity contracting to the weakest level since 2009. Whether it's here or in the U.S. or whether it's abroad, what is your take on the economy right now?
In the U.S., I'll start. It's still consumer driven, and we are seeing that it's holding up. It may not be as strong an increase as last year, but we still feel pretty good about what we're seeing. Of course, we'd like to see industrial production and manufacturing increase, but the consumer is holding on right now, and we're glad to see that. From a international point of view, there are headwinds, no doubt about it. Growing concern about Brexit and what's going to happen October 31st. And then, of course, U.S.-China trade negotiations. There's concerns there, too. But when you have a flexible network like we do, we're going to monitor these macroeconomic conditions, and then we have to respond. We have to reduce costs. We have to change our network. We have to move trade flows. So it's a lot of work to do, but we think it's manageable, and we keep our eye on it, that's for sure.
And, of course, today's the start of the fourth quarter as well, which means that peak season is really kind of just right around the corner. Can you give us a forecast of what you're expecting this holiday season?
I can, and peak is really basically here right now for us as we're starting to hire and train people and finalize our plans. We do expect a heavy peak driven by the consumer, driven by e-commerce. It's going to be an even bigger part of our business this year. That's why we've added 100,000 employees, or we will, for this peak season. And we've added an additional 400,000 packages an hour of capacity, 5 million square feet. We think that we will have another successful peak as we did last year. But peaks are always challenging. There's no doubt about it.
David Abney, thanks so much for joining us today, the CEO of UPS. on the heels of this news of a certification of a drone airline. David, thank you.
Thank you.
On those comments from David about the economy, of course, we do want to note the move in the markets that we've seen today. Disappointing manufacturing data contracting to its worst level in a decade. Dow falling by more than a couple hundred points here to down 178 here. S&P got within 10 points at 3K, now back to 2961. ISM is going to be a concern, obviously, on the manufacturing front. We'll see what services does, because the split between the manufacturing economy and the service economy is what's defined the year, really.
Yeah, and continuing conversations, to be sure, on the impact of this trade war. To what extent is this because of that, and does this put pressure on one side or the other to get a deal done?
Do not discount the drag that a strong dollar creates when it comes to manufacturing and it comes to move of goods and trade flows around the world as well. I mean, we did see another fresh high for the dollar index just yesterday, so I would imagine we're going to be hearing more and more about that strong dollar and the currency effects as we get into earnings season as well.
Yeah, I'll bet. Coming up, a semantics battle over what tech means. We will explain after the break. Stay with us.
We're the Nigerian brothers.
Jamie Theakston and Amanda Holden.
Hard breakfast. Tom Hanks is our special guest.
You're either being punished or rewarded. I'll let you decide.
I did do a whole show of grease on my front lawn when I was a kid. We charged everyone 10p. We raised a fiver and I gave it to Bishop's Waltham Gymnastics Club towards a new crash mat.
Do they get the crash mat?
I mean, it took a couple more years, but yeah.
It does happen to normal people like you. You've won £20,000. Well done.
I love this game.
Hard breakfast.
With Jamie Theakston and Amanda Holden. Weekdays from 6:30. Listen on your radio, global player, or smart speaker.
Play hard. The relaxing sound of fresh, cold running water. And you can have it in your kitchen. With amazing savings on Samsung fridge freezers at Currys PC World. Like the RB31 with its chilled water dispenser for only $399. Or upgrade to the Samsung RS8000 American-style fridge freezer with water and ice dispenser. A huge 609 litres of storage space. At just $104.9. How relaxing. At Currys PC World. Energy rating A+. T's and C's apply.
No one wants to get caught in the rain in London. We're with you. So our boilers come with 2 years interest-free credit to avoid a big chill to your wallet. You'll get a 5-year British Gas warranty. And now we can even quote by video call after work or weekends at a time that suits you. Get a quote by the 30th of November and get £150 off a new boiler or £450 off for existing home care customers. Search British Gas New Boiler. Conditions apply.
The so-called tech lash we're seeing against big tech companies in Washington, causing some of the old guard, like Microsoft, to distance themselves from the label. One of our next guests notes it's not really a broad tech lash, only a referendum on specific companies. Tech lobbyist Bruce Mehlman joins us now, founding partner at Mehlman, Castanetti, Rosen and Thomas. Also joining us, former FTC commissioner and Facebook advisor Moselle Thompson. Guys, good morning. Good morning. Bruce, I want to talk Google to start. Interesting kind of development there. Our parent company, Comcast, apparently jumping in on the antitrust pressure on the company, arguing that YouTube hasn't been open enough, allowing companies to place ads there sort of on behalf of their clients. If this conversation turns more toward the ad market versus impact directly on consumers, does this get thornier for big tech?
Well, I think it definitely gets a lot thornier for big tech if they're going to focus on the ad market. When you take a look at Google, their search market share is 90%, very dominant. And likewise, between Google and Facebook, they have an overwhelming majority of advertising. By contrast, traditional antitrust has tried to take a look at the question, are consumers harmed? And when your services are free, at least in traditional antitrust, it's a harder case to make, though they're trying to reimagine antitrust.
Yeah, unless you view the customer in this case as being the business, in which case, you know, it gets a little touchier. Moselle, I want to also talk Facebook. You know that company well. You're going to have Casey Newton of The Verge on later about the leaked audio of Zuckerberg talking about so many of these pressures. When I read and heard some of those comments, I thought, boy, he's being a lot more unguarded than he normally is about how he really feels about some of this stuff. You think this hurts him at all, that these, if you agree that they are more unguarded comments, are out, or no?
I guess I look at it a little differently. I thought he was candid, but probably not as unguarded as I've seen him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, what have you seen?
I mean, I've seen him be remarkably candid with employees. I thought the positive side was he was pretty honest with them, and he said things that I thought were appropriate for a CEO to say. He's clearly facing these pressures. He's clearly thinking about them, and he's clearly thinking about how do I get my employees to understand what's going on and still feel comfortable with the work environment and not cloud their work ethic. I think that was a good talk, and he didn't say anything that you're not reading about in the paper.
So you think, based on those comments that we saw and heard, that he is handling the situation well, at least internally?
Yes, I thought so.
I mean, we know they're upping their lobbying effort, but to say we're going to go to the mat and force a legal challenge against an incoming president, you don't think there's a difference there? I mean, well, I haven't read about that in the paper.
Well, I do think that at least some candidates have made it very clear as part of their platform that they want to attack the company directly. And I think his response was fairly moderate in saying that we're going to defend it. Do we have to defend the company? That makes sense to me. Now, I also think that Elizabeth Warren, for example, has responded. I guess I have more reservations in political season about things that people say when they're focused more on the remedy than what's the harm. And it seems to me that other than pure anecdotal stories about what the harm might be, if you're going to change basic antitrust law, if you're going to treat all tech companies as public utilities, then you need a lot more data and study about the pluses and minuses before you get there.
Bruce, this gets at a key question, and that is how you define a tech company, and thus if you were to see increased regulations or tech companies that are basically safeguarded as public utilities, what would fall under that jurisdiction, especially in an era where it would seem nearly every company wants to be a tech company in some capacity or another?
No, that's a great point, and there are two challenges. First, the behaviors that have been most upsetting, and tech bashings where the populists on the left meet the populists on the right. But the behavior that's been most upsetting has generally been narrow. It's been Google, it's been Facebook, it's been Amazon, very dominant players who frequently act in bullying ways towards other companies that are seeking to compete against them. The worry of the broader tech community, companies that remain very popular and not directly under attack. I'm thinking of the IBMs, the Dells, the Hewlett-Packards, the Oracles, is that regulation aimed at these dominant players who maybe have abused their market power will create policy shrapnel undermining both startups and traditional tech companies. It's worth noting that Gallup took a look at industry favorability, and what they found is computer industry is the second most net favorable industry across the economy as compared to, say, social media, or particularly as compared to pharma, which is even lower than net favorability for Congress.
So, Bruce, what do you think happens to, say, an Apple or a Microsoft, two very big, very rich, powerful companies that aren't as often brought up in these conversations around antitrust, at least not here in this country and not on the scale of some of the others? Does it leave them in a more favored position, or do they need to watch themselves too?
Well, as a policy risk, we're seeing new policies at the state level, new policies proposed in Washington, aggressive new policies and enforcement at the European Union, all of which is creating the same rules whether you are a big dominant company whose behavior has offended policymakers or whether you haven't taken actions that have put you in the crosshairs. So, for example, in the EU, their privacy law, the GDPR, applies to everybody. And ironically, the GDPR helped the well-financed companies such as Google and Facebook grow their market share, whereas new startup competitors are finding challenges. And there are similar risks with California coming out with its new privacy law at the end of this year. The companies that haven't caused the problem are at risk of the solutions undermining their businesses.
Mazel, all the regulations coming out of the EU, and for that matter, California, hitting the mark or missing it?
I think there are broader questions you have to look at. The market definition is really different in the sense that it's not just, with all due respect to Bruce, I hear complaints about Apple and other, Microsoft too, and it's not just bigger is bad, okay? It's got to be a more sophisticated analysis than that, and to recognize that these companies are not in isolation, that, for example, there are all these Chinese companies who are here. I thought was interesting in the discussion about the discussion that Mark had about TikTok. Obviously, they're here, they're competitive around the world, and they may not have the same kind of regulatory oversight. So it's an interesting world out there, and it can change on a dime.
Yeah. Good discussion, Moselle. Bruce, thanks.
Thank you.
Get a check on the markets this morning. Obviously, we're starting off Q4 with a little bit of intraday drama. Started out green, lost it all on a weak ISM. 29.59 is where the S&P is. Later on is a WeWork discount coming to commercial real estate. Robert Frank has a good piece up. We're back in less than 3 minutes.
Who will start this bidding at 100 guilders?
Stuck in traffic during the big game? With TuneIn Premium, you can listen to your favorite NFL team on the go. No TV required. Even during rush hour, you won't miss a single touchdown. Listen to the NFL on TuneIn Premium today.
The MLB is in full swing.
Looking up, and this one is up and out. A home run.
Swung on and into the air to deep left. That ball is high. That is far. That is gone.
To listen, just search MLB Today on TuneIn Premium so you don't miss a moment of the games on TuneIn.
Good. Here's a swing and a drive deep to right field. Looking up. Goodbye, baseball.
Between game-winning shots and walk-off homers, follow TuneIn on social media to discover the latest and greatest in live sports.
With the 24th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft.
From live reminders that the biggest MLB games are on the air, to recommendations of the best new sports talk shows and podcasts.
He's going to be fine. He's going to be good right away in 3 years.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
These are the top buzzing stories on TuneIn.
Alex Rodriguez did 3 dress rehearsals before proposing to Jennifer Lopez.
My assistant Ashley played Jennifer, and we rehearsed this 3 days in a row, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Now on Wednesday, it rained.
Sarah Jessica Parker is open to a Sex and the City revisit.
I think, to do some episodes of Sex and the City, that those characters never talked about social media, which I just think would be really interesting.
Those were the top stories that are buzzing on TuneIn.
NFL fans, hear every live game on TuneIn Premium.
Fake to pro size, no to ham size. He breaks 3 down to the 5. Yes, call on the 3rd. Touchdown! 20 to the 15 to the 10. 5 touchdown.
This Thursday, hear the home and away call as the Los Angeles Rams visit the Seattle Seahawks at 8:20 p.m. Eastern.
Right up the middle, touchdown.
Trying to dive, touchdown!
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today. TuneIn puts you on the sideline for the 2019 college football season free all year long. With college football on TuneIn, hear the home and away call for more than 140 schools live, regular season matchups and rivalry games, conference championships and bowl games, the college football playoff.
The throw, he steps up, he's going deep down the right side, Andrews.
You can listen to it all for free.
The end zone, touchdown.
At home, on campus, or on the road, hear the excitement and pageantry of college football all season long free on TuneIn.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Welcome back to Squawk Alley. Debt on top of debt, and WeWork's risks to the real estate market. Robert Frank explains from a building owned by Adam Newman. Robert.
Good morning, Morgan. Well, the WeWork is the largest commercial tenant in Manhattan with over 7 million square feet of space. And this building behind me could tell us a lot about the risk to the broader market. Now, it is partly owned by Adam Newman, the founder and now former CEO of WeWork. WeWork leases the building from Newman, and IBM subleases from WeWork. The building is now on the market for $110 million, which is a little optimistic given where the market is now. Newman and his partners bought it in 2015 for $70 million, but there are some layers of debt here. Newman borrowed to buy the building, and there is a $78 million refinancing So the loans on the building are now higher than the purchase price. And WeWork has been critical to Manhattan's commercial real estate market, helping to absorb a lot of the new space. And now you've got projects like World Trade Center and Hudson Yards adding even more. Some buildings that were leased to WeWork have been pulled from the sale market, and landlords now, at least some of them, will no longer lease to the company.
Occupancies fall, if rental rates deteriorate because of the WeWork factor, among other things, you're going to see at some point a catalyst that's going to kick off a major repricing. And when that happens, it's sort of Katie bar the door.
And WeWork declined comment. We're told one of the reasons that Newman put this building on the market was to deflect that criticism of self-dealing and conflicts of interest ahead of the IPO. That IPO now, of course, postponed indefinitely. Guys, back to you.
Robert Frank, thanks. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch this company's impact, for better or worse, on the real estate market here in New York. Also, European markets about to close. Seema Modi has the breakdown of today's action from here. Seema.
Hi, John. European stocks trading lower after new data confirmed this ongoing trend, which is the slowdown in Europe's manufacturing sector. Latest data shows the Eurozone manufacturing slump deepened last month to a nearly 7-year low. PMI reading dropped to 45.7 in September from 47 in August. Spain, Italy seeing big declines, while Germany's reading was the lowest since the financial crisis in 2009. But that's not stopping U.S. banks from getting more bullish on European stocks following a bold call from J.P. Morgan, which upgraded European equities yesterday. Bank of America this morning forecasting European stocks 600, which is the benchmark in Europe, to rise 415 points by March of next year, implying a 6% jump from current levels. Analysts remain overweight European airlines, mining firms, and banks. And the call is also predicated on a weaker euro, which is now at a 29-month low against the U.S. dollar, slightly higher, though, as you can see, up 1/3% against the dollar. Key events to watch in October will be the EU summit in 2 weeks, the next ECB monetary policy meeting on the 24th, and that Brexit deadline, which is still set for the 31st. Carl, back to you.
Seema, thank you very much. Let's get a news update this morning as well. For that, we'll go back to Sue Herrera at HQ. Morning again, Sue.
Good morning again, Carl. Good morning, everyone. Here's what's happening at this hour. Republican Congressman Chris Collins had his resignation read and accepted on the House floor this morning. He resigned from Congress ahead of an expected guilty plea to insider trading later today. Charles Schwab is dropping commissions for online trading of U.S. stocks and exchange-traded funds. It is the latest slash in an industry battle that has drastically cut the cost of investing. It will go into effect on Monday. The news sent the brokerage shares plummeting. And Britain's Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, says empowering women through education could be transformational for communities. She made the comments during a visit to Johannesburg University in South Africa.
It's a really exciting day. I'm thrilled that, given the context of what's been happening in South Africa with universities, which I've been also following very closely, that we are able to do our small part through the AC to support so many people who are just eager to learn.
You are up to date. That's the news update this hour. Morgan, I'll send it back downtown to you.
Sue Herrera, thank you. Up next, over 2 hours of Mark Zuckerberg audio leaking online. The reporter behind that scoop is going to join us next. Meantime, taking a look at the markets, major averages are all in the red after starting the session higher. The Dow's down 163 points. The S&P is down 13. We had that weak ISM manufacturing number and a big fall in Treasury yields. We're back in a moment.
Fly from London Heathrow to Shannon from $55.99 each way as part of a return trip with Aer Lingus and experience something new on your next trip to Ireland. Discover the soaring cliffs and stunning scenery of the wild Atlantic Way. Explore the charming local towns and relax by the fireside with some traditional music and fresh seafood. Smart enjoys a short break in Ireland. Smart flies, Aer Lingus. Book now at aerlingus.com. Offers subject to conditions and availability.
The relaxing sound of fresh, cold running water. and you can have it in your kitchen. With amazing savings on Samsung fridge freezers at Currys PC World, like the RB31 with its chilled water dispenser for only $3.99. Or upgrade to the Samsung RS8000 American-style fridge freezer with water and ice dispenser. A huge 609 litres of storage space at just $104.9. How relaxing. At Currys PC World. Energy rating A+. T's and C's apply.
MLB is right here on TuneIn.
A swing and a drive to right field. That's it. Well, Ramirez back, and that ball's gone.
And to find it all, you need to search MLB on TuneIn.
By the wall, out of here.
Home and away calls are a click away on TuneIn Premium.
These are the top buzzing stories on TuneIn.
Alex Rodriguez did 3 dress rehearsals before proposing to Jennifer Lopez.
My assistant Ashley played Jennifer, and we rehearsed this 3 days in a row, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Now on Wednesday, it rained.
Sarah Jessica Parker is open to a Sex and the City revisit.
I think, to do some episodes of Sex and the City, that those characters never talked about social media, which I just think would be really interesting.
Those were the top stories that are buzzing on TuneIn. Get social with TuneIn. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest and greatest audio on the app. Explore exclusive content. Learn about hot new podcasts and get alerted when the big game, it's about to begin. Add TuneIn to your feed and be in the know when it matters most.
College football is live on TuneIn. Listen for free to games from more than 140 schools all season long.
To the 10, all the way to the checkerboard. Somebody stays on his feet and scores.
What's happening in college football this week? This Saturday, 2 undefeated SEC teams square off to see who is a college football playoff contender. Number 10 Florida welcomes number 7 Auburn to town at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Just search college to listen today.
All hands on deck, the latest exclusive from The Verge, detailing and posting over 2 hours of leaked audio from internal meetings between Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg and his employees. Here's Zuckerberg talking about calls to break up Facebook, specifically from presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren.
Like Elizabeth Warren, who thinks that the right answer is to break up the companies, if she gets elected president, then I would bet that we will have a legal challenge, and I would bet that we will win the legal challenge. Does that still suck for us? Yeah. I don't have to, have a major lawsuit against our own government. That's not like the position that you want to be in when you're, it's like we care about our country and want to work with our government to do good things. And but look, at the end of the day, if someone's going to try to threaten something that existential, you go to the mat and you fight.
Joining us this morning, the reporter behind that scoop, Casey Newton, of course, of The Verge. Also with us for his reaction, early Facebook investor, Elevation Partners co-founder, Roger McNamee. Good morning, guys. Good to see you both. Casey, it's quite a story. We had a big discussion a moment ago about whether or not he's saying anything we didn't know already, just more plain spoken. What did you learn?
Yeah, well, what I think that the story reflects is the deep unease at the company. You're right. Mark Zuckerberg is being mostly very politic and diplomatic here, but what you hear in the audio and you see in the transcript is employee after employee coming forward to talk about their unease with what's going on. And so that was my main takeaway, is people inside Facebook are rattled by this threat of government intervention.
Casey, he also talked about your story earlier this year about how Facebook is having contractors moderate content. His response to that was interesting to me. Some of these contractors have just had some troubling psychological effects, as you documented. He was kind of dismissive of that, kind of saying, yeah, it's a concern, but called the report overdramatic.
Yeah, and, I think if you think these reports are overdramatic, I'd encourage you to talk with any of the moderators I spoke with about the post-traumatic stress disorder that they have come down with after doing this job, sometimes for just a few months. So, while it's certainly true that, not everyone has a terrible experience doing that job, the fact is there are very real mental health consequences for doing it, and I don't think the folks that I spoke with would have, called their own stories overdramatic.
Roger, you have a deep knowledge of this company. You've had meetings with Mark Zuckerberg. What did you think of the audio?
Well, so first of all, I need to compliment Casey on an extraordinary piece of journalism. He's been rocking it this story from the beginning. So I think there are a few things that stand out. The first thing is that, as Casey said, employees are beginning to push back, and somebody leaked this to Casey. That is a huge deal. To my understanding, this is only the second time something's been leaked by active employees, and that represents something really interesting. But to me, the really important thing is that Mark doesn't appear to have learned anything. He's looking at this like it's okay for him not to testify before Parliament in the United Kingdom or Canada, two of his largest markets. So he's just too important to do that kind of stuff. And that secondly, that the antitrust issues that have been raised here are in some way, something he can dismiss and fight in court. When I think there are underlying issues going on here that are really, really, really substantive. He doesn't seem to understand that this is a bipartisan issue, that the threat to Facebook, but also to Google, Microsoft, and Amazon from antitrust is based on the fact that they're really harming innovation in the economy, and they've done a lot of damage to democracy, public health, privacy as well. And so I look at this and just say, wow. I mean, Mark he's learning a lot about how to do politics. Facebook's PR has been amazing this year, but he doesn't seem in this particular audio string to be the kind of thoughtful, forward-looking person that, he ought to be given all the things that are going on.
Well, Casey, Roger may be right that opposition to the firm is somewhat bipartisan, but that's not an issue here. If it goes to court, it'll be a judicial question.
Yeah, that's right. And I think you hear Mark Zuckerberg saying they're ready to fight really hard. They think that they can win that case. And of course, they've been working as hard as they can to knit Facebook and WhatsApp and Instagram together this year so that if and when President Warren emerges and tries to break up the company, it's going to be as hard as possible for regulators to split it up. So they are actively working to undermine any case that comes up down the road.
Roger, he calls in the audio, Zuckerberg does, this an existential issue, the idea of breaking up Facebook. I think that's a pretty strong word, but arguably one that any CEO who's put a company together from multiple pieces might use. What's your take?
Well, my take is that investors should be applauding antitrust action here. We've just seen the IPO market blow up in smithereens because these companies, as monopolists, have managed to force venture capitalists into other sectors which haven't produced the same kind of high-quality business models that you would normally see at the heart of the internet. And I think we will see that what happens here in antitrust is the same thing that happened when AT&T was initially regulated and then taken apart, when IBM was regulated, when Microsoft was regulated, which is it will unleash a whole new next big thing that will be much bigger than what we have today and much better for investors. I think that the issues that Mark has, of course he feels threatened. He's put this vision together, but at the same time, he's acted irresponsibly. I think the company has acted irresponsibly. And it's clearly within their rights to fight legally in any way they can. But the notion here that Elizabeth Warren is the only one who is a threat to him is laughable. Senator Warren has a very clear understanding of the issues here, and breaking these companies up, I suspect, again, I can't speak for her, but I suspect she knows that breaking them up is the end of a process, not the beginning, that the right thing to do is to restore the ability for competitors to operate by essentially narrowing the space that Google, Facebook, Amazon, and Microsoft can operate in, by making sure their intellectual property is available to startups and that their infrastructure is available to startups to build their own audience, which is what was done to AT&T before the breakup.
Casey, you mentioned unease among employees, which is part of how you ended up with these comments from Zuckerberg and has certainly contributed to a lot of your reporting. How would you categorize that? I mean, what is the morale of the workforce within Facebook based on the conversations you've had? And what does it mean for, I guess, the future of the company and the folks that Zuckerberg was trying to address in those very comments?
It's a great question, Morgan. And one part of the audio that stands out to me is when an employee comes forward and says, hey, what do we tell our friends who don't like Facebook anymore? And that's such an extraordinary thing, I think, for an employee to be asking the CEO, right? For a long time, working at Facebook has been a badge of honor. I think lately it's become a little less comfortable to talk about at a cocktail party. And there's a very real effect for the company, which is that it is harming their recruiting efforts. We saw earlier this year some reporting that suggested that the percentage of people who are offered a job at Facebook who accept that offer has been declining this year. And it's clearly in direct result of the sort of scandals that we've seen over the past couple of years. So basically, everything we've seen over the past couple of years has contributed to making it harder for Facebook to recruit. And if they have trouble recruiting, it threatens everything at the company.
All right, before we wrap this all up, Roger, I just want to get your take on something else that's in the news today. You've got this VC event in San Francisco, more than 100 startups that have been invited to discuss this idea of direct listings versus an IPO. Your thoughts?
I don't think this fixes the core problem in venture today, which was we've had a mania around growth at any cost, really taking Reid Hoffman's notion of blitz scaling and saying, if you get big enough, it doesn't matter that your business model is terrible, you'll still create a lot of wealth. And I think we're now seeing that there's a dark side to that because the public market's looking at this and saying it's ridiculous. This is not about how you list. It doesn't matter whether you do a direct listing or an IPO. What matters is that you have a business model that's worth something. And, I just don't think we have that. And I think, frankly, people don't appreciate how successful Google has been in its venture arm at getting venture capitalists to look in areas like crypto, like transportation, like delivery services, and away from the core internet. And it's, again, an argument for antitrust law. You need to create the opportunity for new startups with different business models to compete at the heart of the internet before it's totally closed off.
Casey, before we let you guys go, what do you think is the next big story with Facebook? What's the question that you want answered most now?
Oh, well, somebody replied to me after I posted my story saying, gee, it would be great if we could hear some of this audio from between 2013 and 2018 as some of the problems that we've seen the consequences of since 2016 were really starting to take shape. So, yeah, there's a lot still to come, but there's still a lot we don't know about what happened in the recent past. And so that might be one place where I turn my attention next.
Yeah, and Carl, Christopher Wiley, the whistleblower from Cambridge Analytica, he's putting out a book next week, which I think is going to have a lot about Facebook in it, and specifically about who knew what and when relative to the Russians and Cambridge Analytica. So I think there will be more action to come from that particular venue.
We'll watch that. I know Mosseri's on Today's Show tomorrow to talk about changes to the Instagram feed, so we'll have our eyes peeled on that too. Casey, I'd say congratulations. It seems a little bit inappropriate given the content, but it's an amazing story. And Roger, thanks for your help.
Congratulations, Casey. It was really great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, gang. Appreciate it.
We continue to watch the sell-off in stocks. Dow is down 217 points right now. We're seeing that off the back of weak manufacturing data. We've got more on that after the break. Stay with us.
Technology has revolutionized the real estate industry.
The relaxing sound of fresh, cold running water. And you can have it in your kitchen with amazing savings on Samsung fridge freezers at Currys PC World, like the RB31 with its chilled water dispenser for only $399, or upgrade to the Samsung RS8000 American-style fridge freezer with water and ice dispenser. A huge 609 liters of storage space at just $1,049. How relaxing at Currys PC World. Energy rating A+. T's and C's apply.
Good. Here's a swing and a drive deep to right field. Looking up. Goodbye, baseball.
Between game-winning shots and walk-off homers, follow TuneIn on social media to discover the latest and greatest in live sports.
With the 24th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft.
From live reminders that the biggest MLB games are on the air, to recommendations of the best new sports talk shows and podcasts.
He's going to be fine. He's going to be good right away in 3 years.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
A lot of people aren't aware that TuneIn lets you listen to the same terrestrial stations that you pick up on your FM AM dial, except you can hear them from anywhere. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
In the dictionary, a podcast is this: a digital audio file made available on the internet, typically as a series, of which new installments can be received by subscribers automatically. But on TuneIn, a podcast is this.
I'm Adam Grant, and this is Work Life, my podcast with Ted.
They study how to make work not suck.
And it's defined like this.
Blackout is a suspense-filled thriller from Endeavor Audio and Q-Code.
From news, sports, to pop culture, comedy, and beyond. Define your own podcast possibilities on TuneIn.
From the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca with your daily sports update. You can always reach me on social media. It's always at Fonseca Show to get the latest and greatest. I'm always posting stuff out there. But remember, we've got NFL this Thursday night. We've got the Rams at the Seattle Seahawks. 8:20 p.m. Eastern is the kickoff.
Off the pro side, he breaks three down to the 5. He's in. Touchdown, Seahawks!
If you want to catch the action in that game, search NFL and favorite your team. That way you don't miss a moment of the action. That's your TuneIn Sports Update.
Hi, this is Brian Weber, host of NFL First and Goal every Sunday, kicking off at 1 Eastern only on TuneIn Premium. Be sure to listen this Sunday for the ultimate football fan experience, featuring 7 hours of commercial-free coverage of every scoring play around the NFL.
I'm Scott Wapner. Here's what's coming up. Halftime report, top of the hour today. Stocks falling to start the fourth quarter. Our investment committee debating now what's likely to happen in the months ahead. Plus, new at noon, inside the secret Silicon Valley meeting that could change the way companies go public. We've got the details, who's there, and what is being discussed, and a big development in the way you'll trade in the future. Got the latest when we see you at noon. Morgan, we're about 15 away, a little less. We'll see you then.
Sounds like a big show, Scott. We're looking forward to it. Thank you. We got stocks near session lows right now. Every sector in the S&P in the red. Big moves in the bond market, too. And for that, we're going to get over to the CME and Rick Santelli for the Santelli Exchange. Rick.
Good morning. Yes, big moves in both directions. Look at an intraday chart of 2-year note yields. Boy, we're 4 or 5 basis points up. Now look at us. Same could be said for 10 years. We're basically lost everything plus more. To me, that's important. But what's more important is why. And why? Well, one of the whys is, of course, the number we had this morning. I brought it out at 10 Eastern. When you looked at ISM for manufacturing, it was the worst level in more than 10 years. But there's another reason, and we're going to call it hard exit or Hexit. But it isn't our exit, it's Japan's exit. Basically, 3 things have happened in the last 36 hours that spilled over into our markets. And granted, I don't think it's that missing piece of the puzzle or that final straw that truly breaks the camel's back, but it certainly is something to pay attention to, and it gives us a great lesson that if you're going to manipulate markets, be prepared to buy everything, because when you stop buying and you're short of everything, today's kind of a thing that happens. So let's start at the beginning. We'll talk about 19%. Well, what's 19%? 19% is the government pension investment core fund in Japan at $1.5 trillion. And they decided, well, they don't want to buy as much domestic debt. They want to buy more foreign debt. That is, of course, a big deal. And then let's talk about the Bank of Japan. The Bank of Japan wants to ease off on its purchases as well. And all of this, of course, led into a bond auction. Well, JGBs to be exact, 10-year JGBs. So what do we have? We have a Bank of Japan. We have the biggest pension fund. Those are basically the wizards that keep the greater fool's theory going. See, what greater fool's theory, and I don't mean to sound mean-spirited, but in order to buy, whether it's products, financial products in Japan or in Europe, you have to be pretty darn sure that there's somebody behind you that's going to pay up for something whose intrinsic value doesn't match what you're paying. There's the greater fool's theory. But in order to have a greater fool's theory, you need the biggest partner. You need the wizard. You need somebody that starts this parade. In this instance, it was shared by the Bank of Japan and the largest pension fund in Japan. And both of them all of a sudden decided no safety net required. Now, how will this play out? I'm not sure how it plays out, but it really is a life lesson. Whether it's a taper tantrum or a Hexit by Japan or a global Hexit, it is very difficult to leave the room when everybody in the room is looking at a reality that can't exist in real financial markets. John Fort, back to you.
Rick Santelli, thank you. And after the break, the unicorn battering Oracle, IBM, and Teradata in cloud storage was just ranked the top startup to work for in 2019. We will talk to the CEO next. Stay with us.
See, that's funny. I thought you traded options.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they are the right hire. And we give you this toy monkey who will bang its cymbals when the right CV appears on your desktop. Okay, there is no monkey. There is no monkey. But there are online skills tests.
See why more than 250,000 companies in the UK use Indeed for hiring. Visit Indeed.com/try today to try skills tests for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
Hearing is an underrated miracle. Intimate whispers, the lushness of symphonies, the soothing patter of rain on leaves. If you had that taken away from you, it would be a massive loss for most of us. Almost all of us go every day without really stopping to think about just how important it is to us.
Audible presents The Body, a guide for occupants, written and read by Bill Bryson, including original bonus material exclusively available at Audible. Listen free as part of your 30-day trial, $7.99 a month after 30 days, renews automatically.
I want Poppy to play cricket for England.
I want Sam to stop screaming.
I want Joe to live a little.
I want Naomi to live a lot.
I want Becky to invent a cure for the common cold.
Whatever the future holds for your children, Vitality Life Insurance want to make it happy, healthy and secure. So when you take out our Wellness Optimizer, you'll get up to 40% off your life insurance premiums. I want the twins to keep on being happy.
I just want whatever the twins are on.
Just search Vitality Life Insurance. Additional product, minimum monthly premiums and conditions apply.
NFL fans, hear every live game on TuneIn Premium.
Fake the pro size, no, the ham size. He breaks 3 down to the 5. Yes, call on the 3rd. Touchdown! 20 to the 15 to the 10. 5, touchdown!
This Thursday, hear the home and away call as the Los Angeles Rams visit the Seattle Seahawks at 8:20 p.m. Eastern.
Right up the middle, touchdown. Trying to dive, touchdown!
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
All right, almost halfway through the session. Session lows. Dow's down 208. We're back to 2956 as that ISM number continues to reverberate today. Squawk Alley's back in less than 3 minutes. Don't go away.
Hi, my name is Sam Davis.
MLB is right here on TuneIn.
A swing and a drive to right field. That's it. Well, Ramirez back, and that ball's gone.
And to find it all, you need to search MLB on TuneIn.
By the wall, out of here.
Home and away calls are a click away on TuneIn Premium.
From the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca, the Daily Sports Update. Major League Baseball wildcard action for the American League. We've got the Rays at the Athletics. This one's going to be Wednesday at 8:09 p.m. Eastern. How are the teams feeling?
It's really amazing. It's just a special day. More importantly, we get the win and in a crucial time, and we battle our butts off today.
Now, if you want to catch that game, search MLB at your TuneIn Sports Update.
College football is live on TuneIn. Listen for free to games from more than 140 schools all season long.
To the 10, all the way to the checkerboard. Somebody stays on his feet and scores.
What's happening in college football this week, this Saturday? The scoreboard will be working overtime as Sam Ellinger brings his vaunted Texas Longhorns passing attack to West Virginia for a Big 12 conference matchup against the Mountaineers. The action starts at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Just search college to listen today.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest and greatest audio on the app. Explore exclusive content. Learn about hot new podcasts and get alerted when the big game, well, it's about to begin. Add TuneIn to your feed and be in the know when it matters most.
In the dictionary, a podcast is this: a digital audio file made available on the internet, typically as a series, of which new installments can be received by subscribers automatically. But on TuneIn, a podcast is this.
I'm Adam Grant, and this is Work Life, my podcast with Ted. I study how to make work not suck.
And it's defined like this.
Blackout is a suspense-filled thriller from Endeavor Audio and Q-Code.
From news, sports, to pop culture, comedy, and beyond. Define your own podcast possibilities on TuneIn.
These are the top buzzing stories on TuneIn.
Alex Rodriguez did 3 dress rehearsals before